While in the bathtub one day, Ellyn Winters-Robinson decided to do a self-examination on her breast, and she found a lump on the left side. This led to an eventual diagnosis of stage 2 breast cancer, removal of both her breasts, 12 weeks of chemotherapy, and 15 rounds of radiation. Her journey, like others, was a turbulent one. She often felt alone and scared, navigating these appointments, surgery, and aggressive treatments. Because of this, Ellyn was inspired to create her own AI-powered chatbot called Ask Ellyn to support other women going through the same thing. She joins me today to tell me more about it. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you, Kelsey. It's lovely to be here.
Ellyn, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Touch wood. Everything seems to be copacetic. I feel fine.
I think when people get a diagnosis like this, my immediate first thought would be to jump online and start Googling. And the information or lack of or misinformation you find online can be very scary.
Yeah, they say Dr. Google is not your friend in Cancerland.
No, well, we have a friend here for you. If I'm someone who's just been diagnosed or just got home after surgery and I'm looking for answers, how can Ask Ellyn help me?
So we created Ask Ellyn, or I created Ask Ellyn, or I was inspired to create Ask Ellyn, just with this idea of passing on knowledge to the next woman that was going to go through this diagnosis. And we wanted to create something that filled the gaps that exist in the medical care system. Like the doctors are great at diagnosing and treating disease, but they don't have the time to be holding your hand. And the support groups out there can be areas of collective trauma, and they often don't kick in until a little later in the diagnosis. So, you know, you have a biopsy, the first thing you do is you go out to the car and you start to cry. And so that's really what Ask Ellyn was there for, is to be that companion and that confidant where you can go and just talk to her and get responses.
You know, I think of shows like Grey's Anatomy or ER, and what we love so much about that is that relationship, that coping that the doctor gives to the patient. But you're right, our medical system isn't made for that, nor do they have time for it. For women who have used this or people who have accessed Ask Ellyn, what are they saying? I've
got pages of testimonials in terms of, you know, just saying this is thank you so much. I actually joined a Canadian cancer group, and they were in there talking about her and saying they've just never had this kind of level of empathetic response before. And it's amazing that they are, you know, really touched by what we've built.
What do you feel when you hear that?
It touches my heart. I have a story. I had a woman reach out just recently through the feedback mechanism, and she thanked me for building this. And she said she was in her bathroom, and she was very anxious because she was taking her bandages off and she was looking at her scars for the first time. And she said, I was using your AI and I was asking her questions and I found out we had a lot in common. And she said, thank you so much for getting me through that moment. And I remember how incredibly vulnerable you are at that moment. Your body has completely changed. Not even a family member is going to necessarily be present for that. And so to know that I was able to kind of digitally stand with her in the bathroom was pretty powerful. It keeps me wanting to keep doing this.
Well, I was going to ask about when someone gets a diagnosis, it's not just them getting it, it's the entire family.
Correct.
Everyone is impacted by this. And part of what you have done is to create a function for kids and family members.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So you're absolutely right. So for every person diagnosed, I always estimate there's probably 10 others, friends, family, children. Everybody's on this journey together. And in fact, they're like bystanders in a bad car accident. And I think in some cases, Ask Ellyn's more important for them than the person that's on the journey, because we're kind of in the eye of the hurricane, but they're watching this trauma unfold and they are helpless in terms of how to help. And so we created her so that she can perspective shift, so she can talk to a husband or a friend. You can even ask her a question in the voice of a child. So why is mommy bald? And she will then adopt tone and language that is appropriate to that child.
I'm sitting here and I feel like I have chills from my fingertips to my toe tips, just because the idea that you could offer support to somebody to even know what to say.
Yeah, and then there's so many women that are from a traditional cultural background where breast cancer is a shameful diagnosis. So Ask Ellyn speaks every language, or at least any one we have tested her on. And those women also touched my heart because they're often going through this very much alone because their family members don't even want to talk about their diagnosis. So.
You created this chatbot because of your experience, in part your experiences with doctors. So what was that experience and how did it influence how you built this system?
So I was very, very fortunate. I was treated in the Kitchener-Waterloo region. The care there was extraordinary. I never felt like a number. So I had tremendous compassion from the doctors and from the nurses that saw me. But again, their time is limited. They're not there at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're not there in that moment when somebody's taking their bandages off for the first time. That's not their job. And so I'm just there to really complement. And in fact, the fact that we designed her deliberately to be non-medical, I wanted her to always support the care teams in their work. And so if you ask her a medical question, she'll answer in sort of my lived experience, which is entwined into this bot, but she will always refer back to a doctor.
Ellyn, this is really cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.